it was decided that there should be a replica of the Amistad, and there was. It was planned, long planned, and it was built at Mystic Seaport. So there is an Amistad floating around here, and it travels all over telling the story. And it has a regular crew, but it also has a crew of students that changes from time to time, giving them experience aboard it, and them learning the story and them telling the story. It's a great little ship. But this is a story that relates both the historic Amistad and the replica to this custom house. That's why I like it. One day, our director, Lucille Showalter, her name was, got a call from a gentleman who said, "I've got a problem." She said, "What's your problem?" He said, "My problem is I've been wanting to build a model of the Amistad, but I can't find the information I need. I need the exact dimensions and the exact description of the ship. I've looked at all the historical references and I can't find that information. Can you tell me where I might find the information so I can build my model?" And she was considered something of an expert in the Amistad. And she said, "Well, I understand your problem. Even Mystic Seaport, building the replica, did not have access to that kind of information." She said, the thing about it is that information is not available. I don't believe that you would find it anywhere, because that was not a famous ship when it was built. It was just an ordinary run-of-the-mill coastal schooner. A number of them were built. There would have been no reason to preserve its plans in any museum or archive. She said, I don't think you can find that. She said, the only place where you might find some of that information would be in the records of this custom house. Why? Because it was processed through this custom house. Frequently, there are documents made in connection with a ship that's processed, and maybe in our records there would be something. And this relates very much to what you just heard in the library. She said, because he said, "Oh, okay, I'll come to New London and look at your records." And she said, "We don't have our records anymore. They've been moved to the Federal Archive in Waltham, Massachusetts. That isn't far. You could go to Waltham, you could see the curator, tell him Lucille sanctioned, she knew the curator, and you want to look at the New London Customs documents from 1839 to 1841. Why? Because that ship sat in New London during that period. That's the period that documents would have been made." So that was the end of that call. Sometime later, she gets another call from the same gentleman. He said, "Well, I did what you told me. I went to Waltham, saw the curator, we got out those New London documents, we looked through them. There were a couple that were in the name of the ship Amistad, but they didn't have that information that I needed, the dimensions and all." And the curator said something, "Well, maybe we shouldn't just restrict ourselves to the documents that say Amistad at the top. Maybe we should look at all the different documents from New London during that period." And it turns out that was a good thing to do, because they came to a document in the name of a different ship, the Ion, I-O-N. But reading down through that document, they came to the phrase, "formerly the Spanish schooner Amistad." What had happened? What had happened is the Amistad, remember, was auctioned off here to a new owner who gave it a new name. And it turns out that that document had all the information he needed. It had all of the complete dimensions of the ship and the description of the ship. And he said, "This was so great." And he said, "I've made my model now." And he said, It's great. I don't know how to thank you." And she said, "Well, I know how. You could come here to this museum and give us a talk about your project and bring the curator from Waltham." So they did, right in this room, set up all the chairs here, the podium up there, it has a little model, they talked about it. At the end of the talk, a lady in the audience got up and she said, "Well, I'm from Mystic Seaport, where we have been working on building the replica." And she said, we had the same problem. We didn't have any more information than that to build our model, our replica. But we had to make some changes in the one we built in Mystic. "Oh, what kind?" "Well, we had to put an engine in ours, in the replica. The original didn't have an engine. We had to make it conform to present-day Coast Guard and safety regulations. The original didn't have it. We're going to make it a classroom type ship. We had to change the accommodations. We made quite a few changes. In fact, we ended up making it 10 feet longer than the original Amistad. So when you do see the replica, it isn't an exact replica. There've been some changes. Well, that was interesting. Then at the end of that talk, we went downstairs and had some refreshments. And he came to Lucille, the guy who made the model, and he said, Lucille, he said, my pleasure was making the model. Now that it's finished, he said, thank you. He said, would you mind if I left it here in the museum? Oh. She said, no, I wouldn't mind at all. So that's what you can see over here. So come over to the room, and you will see his model that he made from a New London Custom House document information. And this is his little label about some of the things he found, the guy who did the model. For example, his research turned up how much it was sold for at auction here in New London, the original Amistad. You see what it says? It was sold for $300. Compare that to the price of one of the male captives, $450 for one, the whole ship for $300. It also has some other interesting things. He found that John Quincy Adams helped pass an act in Congress allowing the new owner to register the ship in the United States under her new name, the Ion. In other words, why? Why would it take a law to change the name of a ship? My theory is it wasn't just changing the name of the ship. It was a foreign ship that was getting a new name in this country. Maybe that's why they had to have a law. I've never known that. Somebody could research it. All we need in this museum is to have some researchers. Anyway, but here's the question a lot of people say. What happened to the original Amistad? Well, this is what he found in his research. It was eventually sold to French merchants. Little is known, except they think it sank later in the late 1840s. So if anybody says, there's the Amistad, there it is, no, that's the replica, not the original. The original is gone. But when we got this model, I thought it was great, but I said to Lucille, you know something I think that would really help make this exhibit? If we had a copy of that document of ours from Federal Archive where he found all that information. Well, we got it. This is a New London Customs document, and it's a special document that you fill out, a customs document, when you re-register a vessel. In other words, when you change the name to a different name. And you can tell that by noticing the printed part that's filled in with writing. There's the name of the new owner, George Howland of Newport, the state of Rhode Island. Here's his new name for the ship, the Ion. And here is the phrase that told him what he had. Formerly the Spanish schooner Amistad. And here are the exact dimensions of the original ship as measured here at this custom house. And here's the description of the original ship. It's a schooner with a square stern. Well, you'll notice he put a square stern on it. Has no galleries, but it has an eagle head. What's he talking about, eagle head? He's talking about a figurehead.
Figurehead on the front.
Now, if you look, do you see an eagle figurehead there?
No.
No, there's no eagle figurehead. But when you see the replica made by Mystic Seaport, they have this beautiful gold eagle right there as a figurehead. Now, it's easily explained. Mystic Seaport has carvers that do figureheads. No problem for Mystic Seaport. It was a little more of a problem that he didn't need, I guess, so he didn't put that on.
So Mystic Seaport had that document when they were doing their replica.
I suspect that's the same document, the same information they used. I suspect that's what it was. Yeah. because they could research it at the archive like we do. Well, it's our document.
Who owns the ship? Is it owned by the seaport?
No, there's a special foundation that owns it, the Amistad Foundation. And we are very good friends of theirs, and it comes here a lot, the replica.
Where's it currently? Is it New Haven now? Or?
It's a home port, isn't it? I don't know where it is now, but that's where, sometimes if you're driving by on 95, you're driving by New Haven, if you go by the Long Wharf area, it's all open, and you
Right.
can see out there, and there it is, anchored at the dock. Many times you see it there.
Okay. And this is the New London Maritime Museum.
Yeah, this is the Custom House Maritime Museum, run by the New London Maritime Society. That's the group that runs the museum.
Oh, great.